Hello, everyone. My name is Kamala Forbes, and I'm the Global Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at Pride Global. Thank you so much for joining us for the launch of Pride Global's newest ERG for veterans called Pride in Service. Our initiative is focused on creating a community for our service members and expanding our networks to help other veterans find meaningful employment. Pride in Service is one small but very important part of a larger comprehensive diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative that we've launched at Pride called Decidedly Diverse. Why decidedly? Well, because we've decided to make diversity a part of everything we do, ingrained in every aspect of our enterprise and inspiring every service we provide. Our DE&I focus is reflected in our recruiting, both internally and externally for our clients, through training, compensation, and incentives, and ensuring that we deliver a qualified, diverse candidate pool for every request. And we want to ensure that veterans are a part of that diverse slates that we deliver. And that's where we hope that you can help us. So during this session, if you have any questions, please send them in to the Q&A box, as we'll save a few minutes at the end to answer any of your questions. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the co-chairs of Pride in Service, Bhavin Shah and Gary Miza. Over to you, Bhavin.
Hey, Kamala. Thank you very much for that intro. And welcome, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. So my name is Bhavin Shah, and I'm a senior director here with Pride Health. Pride Health is our healthcare staffing arm. We work with some of the largest hospitals in the nation and the largest nonprofits. My role here is to connect top talent with these large healthcare organizations. So I served in the U.S. Army from 2002 to 2006 and had two year-long tours with the 101st Airborne in Iraq. I worked under the HR division within the U.S. Army. So when I left the Army in December of 2006, two things. One, I don't think I took full advantage of the options that the Army offered. And then two, I had heard all these organizations that had wanted to hire veterans. I had a tough time just getting either having a interview or just being able to explain how my skills matched up with their needs. Fortunately, I was lucky that I had someone who worked in the HR space, and they sat with me for hours on end with my resume and how I should interview. Now we'd like to actually pay it forward. So this is why we're here. I'm gonna hand it off to Gary. Gary?
Oh, thanks, Bhavin. So I'm Gary Miza, and I am a Director of Strategic Accounts for Russell Tobin, which is a part of Pride Global. And I'm one of the co-leads for Pride in Service, and thank you all for joining. And like Bhavin, I want to pay forward what I took away from my military transition to others who can benefit from a program like we're building. And so my background, I spent 8 years in the Navy as a supply corps officer. I deployed 3 times to the Middle East, to South America, and to Southeast Asia. And I remember my transition. It wasn't easy. And honestly, it wasn't so much that finding a job wasn't easy. It was the transition. It was the cultural acclimation. It was a lot of things that came along with, transitioning from a service to, a civilian job. And so, we've learned a lot from that. And as Bhavin mentioned, we want to be able to pay that forward. And so for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about this program that we're putting together and launching that is aimed at doing exactly that. So our mission is simple, right? We want to help service members make an effective transition out of service into a civilian career. And as I mentioned, we want to help them acclimate to a new environment, which I personally believe is the hardest part. not just necessarily matching with what they've done to the job, but also how do they remain effective, how do they remain happy, and all those kind of things, and how do we leverage those that we're connected with, whether it be other companies or people on this call, to help grow this program and add value to this community. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time walking through this slide, and this is sort of the framework for how we intend to do exactly what I just described. And it starts by connecting with and finding talented people who are either recently separated from the military, soon to be transitioning out of the military, or perhaps even folks who've been out for a while that you know, haven't quite landed in the spot that they're looking to land in. And you know, many points along this continuum that you see on this slide, we need help, right? There's a lot that we think we can bring to the table ourselves, but you know, this works when we have a community around it and when we have people helping. And it starts with this very first piece of networking. So the first ask that I'm going to have of people is, how can you help us connect to the talent or to the service members who could benefit from this type of program? And I'll come back to that a little bit. Then the idea from there evolves to, how do we help these veterans once they get into our pipeline, right? And so I think it starts with a conversation. I think it starts with understanding their background, understanding their skills, what they got out of their positions in the military. And that's sort of this part of the triangle. It's identifying their ideas, right? Their background. I think we can help supplement that with our ideas. All right, you know, I know you did, you know, this type of job. In my own case, I was a supply corps officer, so I had my own ideas about how that would translate once I exited my military career. You know, if this program is around, I would have benefited from having a conversation with somebody around, well, here's all of the things that we believe you could do on the other side. And then how do we actually match those two things with actual opportunities that are out there? And, you know, the benefit of being a staffing firm is that we're connected to all types of companies and all types of industries that have needs. And those needs could really be benefited by aligning veterans to those job opportunities. Maybe in some cases, the skills and experiences that they develop as their military service, part of their military service, gets them 75% of the way there. But to get them the rest of the way, it requires a little bit of training, maybe that soft skill training or vocational training. And that's certainly something that we have an opportunity to identify and help give to them. From that point forward, and I'll kind of breeze through these few points, you know, this is where the bread and butter of a staff, you know, human capital management firm like ours comes into play. We can identify companies and jobs that are out there in the market. We can help with resume preparation. I think Bhavin said earlier, how do we take a military resume and make it sound very civilianized? How do we align, you know, a veteran's skill set to a job opportunity in the civilian sector? How do we help prep them for interviews and get them to closure on a job opportunity? And all of those things are incredibly valuable, right? Taking somebody, helping them make the transition into a civilian career. But in my opinion, that's just where this journey begins. That is not the end all be all, right? Lots of programs exist out there to help military veterans find jobs, and that's great. But there's a lot more to it, in my opinion. I think when you have a history or a career to that point in the military where, you know, the culture is a certain way, where, you know, your brothers and sisters in arms next to you feel like family to you, that may not feel exactly the same way in a civilian job. And in my experience, that's the hardest part of this entire process. It's not so much finding a job. That's not always easy, for sure, but it's really the acclimation. It's really the, how do I grow comfortable with my new environment, with my new role, with the expectations of what there are of me in a corporate or civilian environment versus in the military. It's typically not command and control anymore. It's typically not, you know, the things that you're to do are not always dictated. Expectations are not always crystal clear. There's a lot of things that you get used to in the military that change when you're in a civilian world. I can speak from my own experience. That was very, very difficult for me. And what I want to be able to do, and we want to be able to do through this program, is help bridge that gap for our veterans. And so we have these concepts of ongoing mentorship. And we'd love to solicit the participation of the veterans we have in this program to help others, to pay it forward themselves as new waves of people are coming through and entering the civilian workforce. I also want to make sure that we have the opportunity to adjust, right? Just because you've landed in a job doesn't mean that that's necessarily the end all be all job for a particular person. Maybe it's a first step. Maybe it's, hey, I need to make sure that I'm able to earn a paycheck and support my family once I've transitioned. And that's fantastic. But it shouldn't end there, right? Is it the best role for you long term? Is it the right job type for you? So how do we continue a dialogue over time to ensure that we're constantly, you know, evaluating how it's going and help make adjustments as necessary? And then last, but certainly not least, how do we create a community around this? How do we recapture at least some portion of what we all had in the military, which is that sense of community, you know, and admittedly, sometimes depending on the culture of a company, and certainly a company like Pride Global has a unique culture about it that I value very much. But the military has a unique culture. We speak a similar language, you know, we've been through things that only each other can understand. So how do we capture that and create a community of our own for our fellow veterans that are a part of this program? And my hope and our hope is through all of this that we really can help veterans make a transition, get really into a job that is valuable to them. And we can keep this cycle going of paying it forward to the next waves and enjoy being part of a community around this. So I mentioned this already, but our target audience for this is obviously veterans who are in some stage of transition. However, I also recognize, and I do not want to underestimate, a target of military spouses as well. Maybe veterans that, or maybe there's military members who are still in service, but they have spouses who are looking for employment and need this type of help and want to be part of this type of community. I absolutely think there is a place for them as well. Maybe the transitioning veteran who is transitioning into a civilian role also has, you know, their spouse has kind of made this journey with them, and we've said over and over and over again, at least through my military career, we couldn't do what we do without the help from home, the spouses, the support. And so I want to make sure that we have an intention of focusing on them as well and finding them opportunities. You know, they've in a sense sacrificed and dedicated their lives to helping the military as well. And so, you know, it's been disruptive and you know, they deserve this focus as well. So that's what we wanted to share with you today. I certainly welcome your questions, and I would ask for and value your feedback. Please reach out to Bhavin or I if you have questions, if you want to get involved. We would love to have you. We can't do this on our own, and we would truly value the help. Our contact information is on this slide, and we'll keep this up for a few minutes. But you know, military life is all about service, and Bhavin and I share a common feeling that we don't want that service to stop just because we're no longer in the military, and we welcome you to join us in that mission, and I hope you will. And most importantly, if you know people right now that could benefit from a program like this, that you can share our contact information with or some of this information, please help us get in touch with them so that we can start engaging and helping them make their transition. So I thank you for your time and attention, and I will turn it back over to Kamala for some closing remarks.
We are all very excited about Pride in Service and the benefits this program will bring. And we look forward to working with you as we launch this new initiative. So stay tuned for more on this topic, and I hope you have the great rest of your day. Thank you.